Been having a relatively wild debate over the past couple of weeks with all sorts of people coming on our set with very different views of the future of Uber. Just this morning, we had two analysts come on, one with effectively a bullish call and one with a relatively bearish call. Explain your take in terms of how this company gets to profitability.
I think this company, I think there's a few ways. One, I think you will see them continue to consolidate regions like Kareem. Two, they're investing a huge amount of money to continue rolling out Uber Eats and things like Uber Freight, similar to what Amazon did. They started with books and then moved into lots of different areas. Those businesses are growing insanely fast. I think additionally, you will see them. I think you'll see, in the U.S. at least, you'll see companies like Uber and Lyft start to operate like duopolies. And I think that's coming, and I think investors will drive them towards long-term profitability as being public companies, and I think being public helps both of them get there.
Hey, Mitch, the thing that I don't understand is we always say that we're going to get into some kind of duopoly situation where there's going to be a Lyft and an Uber, and there's going to be a rationalization in the business in terms of how they compete with each other, maybe like some of the airlines today. And yet then I always think to myself, we forgot that they're taxi cabs. They're taxi cabs in most of these, or many of these cities, and you're effectively not in there's no duopoly at all. And in fact, if you want to raise prices, for example, in New York City or San Francisco or London or France or wherever, you're not just competing against these two companies that have an app. In fact, some of these taxi cab companies now are using Curb or other things like that, and their prices will be cheaper.
I think the taxi cabs in most cities they're not irrelevant. That's not fair. But I think what's important to realize is if the average ride's $9.50, let's just use a better example. If you're in Midtown Manhattan and you're going to LaGuardia, I don't know what an Uber X is. Say it costs $20, $25. I think you can raise prices, but I think you can make it $27 if you're paying $25 or $23 if you're paying $20. And I think people will still take an Uber. And I think the economics work then. Now, of course, if they were raising it from $20 to $40, I think people would get into a taxi cab. But I think there's a lot of pricing. I think there's a lot more pricing elasticity. And we've had McKinsey do work for us, that there is more pricing elasticity than people think. Well, or in other words, you can raise prices and demand really doesn't change.
What do you think the risk is that there becomes a labor issue related to Uber? I mean, that is a true risk that I don't think is necessarily calculated in all this. By the way, true of also Lyft and others.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a risk. I think it's always a risk. I think it's going to be state by state. There's obviously been some regulation in California. A huge amount of the people driving for Lyft and Uber and doing a lot of these gig economy jobs are really part-time employees. Are doing it part-time, not part-time employees. They are part-time. And so, you get into an Uber and Lyft and just ask people, what do they do? A huge amount of people, this is like secondary income for. People that are stay-at-home moms, people that are college kids, things like that. But I do think you will continue to hear noise about the employee versus contractor debate going forward.
Yeah,
I don't think long-term it's a risk, but I do think you'll continue to hear noise.
Final question, and I have to say I don't think I necessarily agree with this piece at all, but there's a piece in the New York Times today, an op-ed piece that calls it Uber's moral stain on Silicon Valley. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Basically, the author of the piece suggests that this has been terrible for labor, terrible for employment, terrible for the culture of Silicon Valley, and effectively makes the argument it's terrible for the world. I come out on the other side, but I'm curious where you come out.
I think I'd agree with you. I think companies like Uber or Lyft or like Airbnb for the hosts are allowing people that otherwise wouldn't be able to work to create a huge new workforce that are enabling people to earn more money. I think it's good for the economy, and I think it is a trend here to stay. And I think it is a fool's errand to think that these companies are fads and not mega trends over the next 10 to 15 years.